Hello again, unfree people of the United Kingdom. How are you doing? To those of you across the pond, this side of it, congratulations on not living in an authoritarian hellhole. It's good. It's good to be free, isn't it? Those of you that pay attention will remember this story very well because it was extremely infuriating to people like me when in 2018 / early 2019, Anna Soubry, who had spent the last, 3 years calling everybody names all the time, calling everybody a fascist or a one-bollocked Austrian painter or a racist, xenophobe, hateful bigot, all the ists and the isms, people like Anna Soubry and that big fat oxygen thief Emily Thornberry throw endless insults at the working classes for the temerity of disagreeing with the elites that run the world these days. That's why she's got a clip, because I hate her. And also because she looks like Zelda. There she is. It's uncanny, isn't it? Spitting double that. Which is why I'm quite juvenile and love throwing insults and slurs back at them, because essentially they started it. I don't want to do the old school ground thing here, but they did start it. It's the reason why I talk about them as scathingly as I do, because they've spent essentially decades smearing normal people. Their hypocrisy is off the scale, and that's why I insult them all the time, because they deserve it, especially little fat poison dwarfs like Emily Thornberry, who think it's totally acceptable for them to call everybody names, but they don't like it when they get the same in return. It's kind of like the Germans acting surprised when Bomber Harris started deleting cities like Dresden. As he famously said, they were working under the somewhat juvenile delusion that they could bomb everybody else and nobody was going to give them the good news in return. So that's why I've got a chip on my shoulder. That's why I hate these people. And you may remember this story, right? Anna Soubry spent years calling people like you names. So when James Goddard and a bunch of his mates started like a football chant as she was giving an interview, and they were simply shouting, "Soubry is a November Alpha Zulu," she had them prosecuted for it. This story from January 2019 was about she was urging police action, and obviously when a crone like Soubry urges police action, she gets police action, because you don't live in a free country, you live in a police state. Anyway, the blatant authoritarianism has ramped up of late, and it's more of the same. Rules for thee, but not for me. They can cheat, as they did in the 2020 election, which we now know is factually true, and long-term viewers of the channel know that just after Biden won the election in 2020, I read this piece out on YouTube, and for that crime was banned for 2 weeks. Lest we forget, all these questions have now been answered. Thanks to Trumpy Bear winning the election last year, we now know this. The reason I got banned is because the federal government was leaning on the Silicon Valley companies, and they were all only too happy to oblige. Anyway, let's not dig up old wounds, or, dig up my nemesis, Suzar. I definitely won that argument in the long run, because it's time to talk about today's story, which is apparently the authoritarian scum that are the Lib Dems have decided, in the same vein as that ugly, dumpy, fat f***er, Emily Thornberry, and the crone that is Anna Soubry, that if you disagree with them, you have to be prosecuted for it, alright? That's what this story's about. I'm going to show you a brilliant video of Daisy Cooper and that capering, baldy simpleton Ed Davey and their response to Tony Romo, what's his crime? Getting working class people talking about politics in the street. Apparently that's highly illegal now, as is disagreeing with Ed and Daisy. So it's just more of the same. If you pay attention, none of this is new. You aren't labouring under the delusion that you live in a free country, and you know for a fact that the powers that be are going to look for any excuse they can to lock you up and eat the key. First things first, the story on GB News is a response to this post by the Lib Dems. Elon Musk is stalking far-right extremism on our streets. Yeah. Every single one of the 20 million people that supported the march in London and intend to vote for reform are far-right extremists. Every single one of them should be in prison, according to the likes of the Lib Dems. And if they were in charge, you would be. They all talk about no prison places, but rest assured they'd build them to lock up anyone who disagrees with Rosie and Ed. Anyway, let's enjoy the total bollocks that this empty-headed communist has to say.
On Monday, the far-right, racist hate preacher Tommy Robinson, who is currently on trial for allegedly refusing to comply with counter-terror police, claimed that his legal costs are being paid by Elon Musk. It is outrageous that a man who has so much control over what people read online every day could be funding someone who stokes far-right extremism on our streets. If this was Putin, the government surely would act. So will the Prime Minister commission the security services to assess the threat that Elon Musk poses to our democracy and recommend measures to this House that we can take to stop it?
Yeah. Racist hate preacher. Well, there was a racist hate preacher in London. He was called Abu Hamza. He was a one-eyed, one-armed holy warrior. And the reason he had one eye and one arm is because he literally fought to try and murder infidels. And apparently, the British government didn't care about him peddling his wares for 25 years. So there's the first one. Secondly, she's upset because Elon Musk's paying his legal fees. Yeah, because he's being tyrannised by the state. This is a country, the UK, where we famously know of thousands of examples. I'm not even going to bother throwing individual examples up because there's so many. Exit bill. Migrants fighting deportation from UK received over 70 million in legal aid in the last 5 years. Aid bills could still surge to all-time highs this year, as asylum seekers can retain solicitors to work on their appeals if the Home Office decides not to grant them leave in the UK. Okay, there's your source for the actually boys, alright? It happens. We've all heard the stories. Surprise sex enthusiasts from Egypt who've been buggering little girls in parks in England. Suicide bombers, burglars, drink drivers. All of them get legal aid to the tune of 70 million in that one story there. It happens all the time and the taxpayer pays for it. But if you get nicked, you're not getting legal aid because you're the wrong colour. You know this is true. You don't need me to keep reeling off the stories for you, do you? So that's the thing. Legal aid gets given to Egyptian kiddie fiddlers, but they won't give it to a lad like Tony Romo or you if you get arrested and you're getting persecuted by the state. And now they want to stop a foreign billionaire who's just got a soft spot for the UK from individually paying the legal bills of a normal working class bloke. Think of that. It's okay for them to rob you blind to pay for Egyptian kiddie fiddler, but it's not okay for a private citizen to pay the legal bills of one bloke because the government don't like him. Yeah, cheers then. The hypocrisy is off the charts. And then everybody's favourite capering simpleton, Ed Davey, joins in, really concerned to see Tony Romo launching a vile personal attack on the brilliant Daisy Cooper for asking an important national security issue very low. Unbelievable. So when Emily Thornberry or Anna Sowbury or Daisy Cooper, or any of them, have a pop at you, slur you, smee you, call you the worst names under the sun, that's totally fine. But if you give them any back, they'll nick you and they'll personally address how vile it is for you to smear them. Ooh, a vile personal attack. Well, I'll join in. Daisy Cooper is a tin pot tyrant who gobbled her way up the chain. You're talking about vile. Authoritarianism's vile. The likes of Daisy Cooper and Sowbury and Thornberry and all of them, they are scum. They are the worst type of human trash. And I live for the day the masses finally lose the rag in the UK and drag them kicking and screaming into a court to face swift judgment from 12 people who don't like them very much. And you may have noticed, because the globalist sociopaths run the world these days, the Aussies are doing the exact same thing. They've just passed a landmark bill aimed at billionaires like Elon Musk because the PM called out the Tesla boss. Yeah, passing a new law that will ban billionaires from interfering in elections. I believe they've capped it at like 50 grand for donations. And again, it's preposterous because the hypocrisy is staggering. Mind-melting hypocrisy from the scum. They do this. They cheat. They rig elections. They install people. They pass laws to persecute people like James Goddard and Tony Romo for having an opinion they don't like. And then the cherry on top is that after 30 years of someone like baggy-faced Baron Greenback himself, George Soros, spending tens of billions to install his puppets all around the world. That was fine, but Musk offers to pay one bloke's legal bills after 70 million goes on cousin bummers from the third world. And apparently it's beyond the pale and we have to stop it. You couldn't make this stuff up. And the GB News story is the icing on the aforementioned cake. MI5 must launch probe into Elon Musk covering Tony Romo's legal fees. Yeah, cheers then. Daisy Cooper also labelled him a far-right racist him. Yeah, they can say that, but you can't call them a November Alpha Zulu. Totally fair. You should go to jail for calling them that, even though they've been riding roughshod over everybody's rights and complaining about a democratic vote like the Brexit referendum. They can call you that till the cows come home, but if you say anything back, MI5 needs to put a bullet in your head. It's totally reasonable, Daisy. Lib Dem Deputy Leader put pressure on Sir Keir to ramp up resources investigating the ex-English Defence League's chief during a fiery exchange at Prime Minister's questions. She said all of his legal funds are being paid by Elon Musk and it's outrageous that a man who has so much control over what people read could be funding who stokes extremism. It's not extremism. 80% of the working classes agree with him. We're all pissed off. You give legal aid money to sex offenders from abroad and you won't give it to people who've paid the taxes for 37 years. Disagreeing with a raving lunatic like Daisy Cooper doesn't make you an extremist. If you were to put these people on one of those political charts, right? Someone like me is way closer to the centre than Daisy Cooper. She is by definition a far left communist ideologue extremist whack job, and people like you and me are like boring centre-right normies. The only extremists in power are the psychos running the country these days. Finishing up, it says Starmer's government has become increasingly wary of Mr Musk's interventions of British politics following the ex-chief's outspoken comments about growth. Yeah, he's the only person in the public eye who'll talk about it. You know, the CPS that Starmer was in charge of sent a letter to all the police telling them not to involve themselves in kiddie fiddling as long as the people doing it had a bit of a tan. Yeah, that happened as well. So this is where we're at. They are one bad day away from locking up hundreds of thousands of you, labelling you as extremists and sticking you in a work camp, which is what we expect from, well, the antagonists in the Gulag Archipelago, which is essentially who's running the UK. It's a mental state of affairs. They can call you names, but you can't call them names. They can give 70 million to foreign kiddie fiddlers, but they won't give a plumber 10 grand. Subri can call you a November Alpha Zulu, but if you call the one back, you go to prison, then you end up having to flee your own country and go to Thailand or whatever. This is the world we're living in. The UK is 1984 writ large. They used Orwell's famous book as a how-to manual to run the country into the ground, and that isn't hyperbolic. If you think it is, let me know in the comments. I think it's absolutely outrageous. The British government aren't even hiding it anymore. The world governments aren't hiding it. They've been rigging elections and cheating for the last 30 years. Soros has spent 1,000 times what anyone like Elon Musk has. And then the second we get one right-wing, in fact, no, that's a smear. He's not right-wing. One centrist billionaire like Elon Musk comes out and starts actually backing working class people, and they have to get James Bond involved. You couldn't make this shit up, but we are where we are. You've got to keep laughing about it, because that's all you've got. You haven't got freedom of thought, deed or movement, but they can't stop you laughing, so keep doing that. Alright, thanks for tuning in. I'll see you all tomorrow. Toodle pip. Cheers.